In one of my mother's albums is a photo from when she was 3 or 4 years old. A group of neighborhood parents assembled their kids for the snapshot, each with their tricycles. On the back, Gammy wrote the story of the picture. One boy had the biggest tricycle. My mom wanted him to trade with her so she could have the biggest trike. Somehow she got him to agree. In the resulting photo, she was beaming, sitting a full head taller than everyone else. She was never afraid to be strong, to occupy space. Where my mom got her confidence and ambition was probably equal parts the Maxwell side and Gammy, who, beyond their card table acuity, was valedictorian of our high school class, a gifted baseball player, widely read, and aimed for a bigger life outside of our hometown. It was at the University of Washington that she met my grandfather. My mom followed, entering UW in 1946 with the full support of two ambitious parents and a family wide expectation that she would excel. Across Puget Sound from Seattle, my father's hometown of Bremerton was best known for its Navy shipyard, celebrated as the place where battle-weary ships came to be fixed. Not too many years earlier, it had a reputation as a town of gamblers and more saloons than anyone could stagger to in one day. Growing up, Christy and I would ride the ferry to Bremerton to visit my father's parents. From the ferry, we'd walk a short distance up the hill to the house where my dad grew up. It was a small blue craftsman on a quiet street. We'd stay with my grandparents for a night or two. If the TV was on, my grandfather would be watching boxing, which was pretty much the one diversion he allowed himself. My paternal grandmother, Lillian Elizabeth Gates, had the same spark for cars that Gammy did, so we would often get a few games in. Like my maternal grandparents, my dad's parents were Christian Scientists. One memory I have from those visits is of Grandma Gates in the kitchen every morning with a cup of coffee, quietly reading Mary Baker Eddy's daily Bible lesson to my grandfather. When my dad talked about his childhood, he always seemed wistful about his father. He described him as a workaholic who left little time for much less in his life. He owned a furniture store passed down from my great grandfather that had survived the Great Depression, but just barely. Constant anxiety about the family finances made my grandfather a hostage to the business. Beyond the little blue house was an alley that, in an earlier time, my grandfather would pass through on his way home from work so that he could pick up bits of coal dropped by delivery trucks. My father said his dad never went to movies or took his son to baseball games. He saw such things as distractions that robbed time from the store. He always seemed to be running scared, my father said. In a way, you couldn't blame him. My grandfather had known poverty as a kid in Nome, Alaska, where his family scraped by, while my great grandfather, the first Bill Gates in our family, sought his fortune in the gold rush of the late 1800s. Bill Jr. had to quit school in the eighth grade to support the family. He sold newspapers in the icy streets of Nome and picked up whatever jobs he could while his dad was off prospecting. Eventually, they would move back to Seattle, settling into the furniture business. Times got better for the family, but the anxieties of those earlier experiences never disappeared. My grandfather also maintained what my dad called a very narrow view of the world. Dad attributed this partially to insecurities. Lacking a full education, My grandfather clung to what my dad called his axioms, rigid rules about the world and life. Learn to earn, son, learn to earn, he would tell my father. Education was about gaining the skills you needed to get a job, nothing more. My grandmother, proud salutatorian of her high school class, had an axiom of her own, one that influenced my dad's view on self improvement. The more you know, the more you don't know. But it wasn't always easy for her at home. Even as women were starting to forge new paths in society, my dad's father was stuck in the bygone time. He wouldn't allow my father's older sister, Meredy, to get her driver's license. He wouldn't consider sending to a college. The skills a woman needed were around the house. My father was very aware of the intellectual gap between himself and his father. Though not illiterate, his dad could hardly read, while my father wanted to use his head, wanted to go to college. He didn't want to knuckle under to his father's plan for him to join the furniture business.